All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Babbles Nonsense podcast. We are going to talk about sex today and get a little uncomfortable with Miss Megan Moore. She is literally the epitome of women empowerment, empowering women in the bedroom, getting in touch with their femininity. You can expect everything in this episode, from talking about positions, sex toys, being single as a Pringle, and how to spice up your relationship. Do not turn this off. You do not want to miss it. Stay tuned.
All right. Now, I have bad service here.
It's okay. You know, my podcast just for fun. So if it breaks up, people will get the point.
Awesome.
All right. So I have Megan Moorehead here with me. We are going to talk about sex. The most uncomfortable topic I think that I've talked about on this podcast so far. For me anyways. But awesome. I think it's important. We connected probably 3-4 years ago at a friend's bachelorette party. And you sold sex toys, you do sex parties, not orgies, guys, but like sex toys, like for bachelorette parties, a lot of fun. You were loads of fun. And I was like, she's got to be on the podcast. You were so enthusiastic about what you did. I love that you didn't give a crap what people thought. So we're going to kind of dive into all of that. So Tell us your background. How did you begin into this world of selling sex toys, talking about sex toys, being confident about sex toys?
Okay. So I actually was not that person. I couldn't even say the word sex. I couldn't even watch scenes in movies, kissing scenes, none of that. So I actually originally started MS. So I was an EMT advanced. I ran on trucks, took care of patients. So this was a totally new avenue for me. And actually, my husband is the one who introduced me. Like, I was so scared. He was like, we're going to go to Murfreesboro to the mall. We're going to go to Spencer's. And I was like, what's at Spencer's? Why we? I know what's there. And he was like, we're going to get you a sex toy and we're going to have fun. And I was like, oh my God, about died. I was like, no way. I'm not going back there. I know. I don't even want to look at it. And so he went back there, got it. And I'm waiting outside of Spencer's for him in the mall. At this time, it was the indoor mall. And he come running out waving it. I got a blue one. I about died. Because this was way before I was ever comfortable, ever even thought about it. And literally the first time I was like, okay, I like this. Like, what have I been missing my whole life?
Wow. So how long were y'all married before he did that?
We had actually only been together probably, let's see here, maybe 6 months. And we had already talked about getting a house. We had known each other previously.
Okay.
By the time that we actually got together and started dating, and then we're like, oh my gosh, we want to look at houses. We looked at houses 3 months into our relationship, but we'd known each other for 10 years prior.
Okay.
But never went there with each other.
Right. So he introduces you to these sex toys, and then how does that go from getting a blue one to turning this into a career? So
I had been invited to a ton of sex toy parties, and I would never go. I was like, ain't no way I'm doing that. And let him buy me one at the indoor mall. And he was like, why don't you have your own? And I was like, what? I was like, you want me to have my own sex toy party? And he was like, yeah, just invite like your 3 closest people. So literally it was my sister, my neighbor, one neighbor, and my best friend. And I told the girl who came, I was like, I ain't inviting 10 people. I ain't inviting. You're going to get 3 people. If you don't want to do the party, then don't come.
Right.
And she was like, no, I'll come. So literally did it with 3 people. And I was like, she was standing up and she was like, oh, if you think you can do what I do, let me know. And I said, girl, I can do it. And so much better because I'm a lot funnier. Rude of me. I didn't mean it rude, but I was like, I'm funny.
Right.
So why not? And I asked him, I was like, what's my budget? And he was like, I don't know. I mean, just whatever. And I ended up spending like $300 on my first, like my first purchase ever on toys.
Your first purchase ever?
I'd never bought any other ones. We stuck with that one little straight blue. It was just a vibrator. And it had a little twisty knob on the bottom so you could turn it up, just slowly turn it down or whatever. And that thing was pretty powerful for battery operated. That was back for chargeable.
That is hilarious. So you literally, your first sex party, you went from, I can't even look at sex toys to selling sex toys.
Selling them. Yep. And that was back in 2013.
And so you've been doing this 10 years.
Yep.
Wow. No, and you're amazing at it. You are funny. I think that you sell the products well, and you're just confident when it comes to talking to females about sex, because I think there's a stigma, obviously. It's getting better, but the stigma is that women shouldn't enjoy sex or pleasure or anything like that. Or or let's even talk about the female orgasm, because a lot of women fake it. Men don't realize that, male on top missionary position isn't the most orgasmic thing for a female. Not that sex doesn't feel good, but it's kind of taboo to talk about, right? Like, so women feel that they have to fake it.
Right. And the reason why is because in today's society, what I have found with as many women as I have worked with and how many couples I have worked with is that a lot of women are too scared because men think that if you have to use something else, that they can't do their job.
Right.
That's just not the case. They don't understand. They believe that they understand female anatomy and how female orgasm. Right. And I'm not dissing on the guys at all. But most women, over 80%, have to have clitoral stimulation to be able to reach orgasm. So that's why a lot of times they're like, oh, let's hit it doggy style. Let's hit it missionary. Oh, I'm just going to jump on top and she'll get it real quick.
Right.
Because we're too scared to voice that to the men.
Have you ever read the book? It's called Becoming Clitorate by Laurie Mintz. She's a PhD.
I have not. I have that actually on my list to read.
It's actually really good. And I think a lot of men should read it. It's not graphic or anything. She's funny as well. And she talks about actually, what's it called? Oh God, when we evolve, evolution. Jesus Christ, evolution. So she talks about evolution and how the clitoris was actually inside the vagina at one point, and then it grew up above. But then it talks about she goes through like the 20s, the 30s, the 40s, and 50s, and how like sex was very taboo-ish. And then in the 20s and 30s, y'all don't quote me because I obviously read this a long time ago, how women, it was hysteria was when women were crazy because they had all this built up tension because they hadn't had an orgasm. So they go to a doctor, and a doctor literally gets them off in the office, and then their hysteria goes away.
Yes, because they used vibrators back then to treat hysteria.
Right. Isn't that so? Like, reading this book was actually a history lesson, and it still talks about how, the female orgasm in the book is, I think the subtitle is Orgasm Equality, because a lot of, obviously a man orgasms. Everyone knows when they orgasm. It's really kind of hard for a man to fake an orgasm. Women, We've got it down to a science. You can fake it. No one's ever going to know unless you tell them. And she just goes on to talk about like toys and things that you could do alone and kind of self-discovery in the bedroom for yourself. And if you have a partner that respects you and trusts you and things like that, then it shouldn't matter what you're using, because they should want you to orgasm just as much as they are.
Right. And I think too, it's all that stigma with men. They seriously feel like they're not good enough. But if they would step into that power of what can actually help with their relationship by adding, it's not going to replace them. A lot of men think that toys are going to replace them, and they're not, because we women love that connection, the skin on skin, like the personality of having sex with each other. So it's not going to replace them. And that's what they need to understand. And it's really there to enhance, because most women can't just get an orgasm with vaginal penetration alone.
Right.
And a lot of women too, I feel like, just from as many women as I've worked with, they are too scared to self-explore.
Agreed.
They don't know what they like. They if they've never had their own bullet, for example, they don't know what they like. They don't know if they would like nipple stimulation, or if they've never had a G-spot vibrator. They're not going to know if they like G-spot play, or if they don't try backdoor. There's so much taboo around all of it in general.
Agreed.
That parents are too scared to talk to their kids about it, that I've seen. I'm not speaking for every parent, obviously. But they're too scared to talk to their kids about it. And I think that's where the mentality needs to change, because if we can educate our kids growing up as they grow up and talk about these things, it can honestly help with their relationships in the future. I'm not saying sex is everything for a relationship, but it's a big part.
Right. And so going back to this book, she talks about sex education in school and how very different it is for a male versus a female, because they don't even show the full female anatomy versus the full male anatomy. They just want to talk about the uterus and the ovaries. They don't even talk about the vulva, the clitoris, all this stuff. But when you talk about the male penis, they want to talk about everything.
Right. And so it's like, it's where all that taboo still goes around, because back in the day, and several people still feel this way. I worked with a 88-year-old woman who was literally came in and she told me, she was like, I was taught, and I still believe that having sex is to only make babies.
Oh, we're not. Gosh.
Yes. She'd never had an orgasm. And so she came in and she was seriously terrified to come talk to me. And so I literally worked with her for at least an hour. I think there was 21 people, I believe, at this party waiting on her. And they were like, oh, come on. And she was like, hold on a minute. And she went from a $20 bullet to a $299 item because she was like, I've never had an orgasm.
Wow.
And I about fell out.
At 88 years old, never had one orgasm.
Yep. And she literally called me the next day thanking me for her purchase. And it was a heated one. So she got like the heat sensation from it. Like, she was like, I can't believe I haven't done this sooner.
Let's be real, right? So we're talking technology. So tongues, fingers are not as fast as a vibrator. Let's just be honest. If we're evolving electronically with air conditioning and refrigerators, why does it matter? It's faster. It gets the job done faster. And, not to mention that women, and again, going back to this book, because it is very educational, and she has a PhD and she actually studies sex and all these things. But she talks about how women take about approximately 30 minutes to even get aroused, to get in the mood. And a man can orgasm in 5-10 minutes. So there's the gap right there. It's like by the time a man orgasms, a woman is not even fully turned on.
This is where foreplay comes in. And this is my best analogy. Okay. Women are ovens and men are microwaves.
Right.
We have to have a preheat setting. Like, we have to have foreplay. And a lot of times in relationships, people are like, oh, let's just get to it. Let's just skip all that. Where we need the neck kicking. We need that little bit of nipple stimulation, maybe a little bit of oral play. Have fun in the relationship. It doesn't always have to be ram bam.
Let's go.
There's you need that passion. Women need the passion. They need the touch. They need the feel. They need all the things to get aroused, because that is the average time for a woman to have an orgasm is around 45 minutes.
Yep.
That is average. Some people are like, oh girl, I can get it in 5. And I'm like, girl, because that's not everybody.
No, but I also think that goes back to your relationship, right? Like, even if you're dating, even if you're having casual sex, I think if you have a man that wants you to orgasm, that is the difference, right? Like, if a man's just trying to hook up with you and he don't give a shit what you do, then that's the difference right there. It's just kind of knowing where you are in that situation, because going back to your relationship, your husband encouraged this, which is amazing.
It's amazing. And so for me, it was honestly shocking. So I'll share. I'm an open book. So when we were getting really intimate with each other, he would always ask me, he's like, why won't you make noise? And let me tell you, a lot of times us as females, we get shunned somewhere in our sexual experiences, whether it's we make a weird noise, or we'll get told we sound like a dying cat, or always something, we may have gotten something negative from a partner that we carry into the next relationship.
Right.
And that's why I was like, I was made fun of in a previous relationship for the noises that I made. And so I never made another noise. And he walked me through that, and he was like, it's okay. Like, I want to hear that you enjoy it. But a lot of times women can't get past those sexual traumas.
1,000%. And they could be micro traumas.
And mine is very minor compared to other people's.
Right.
It has its own magnitude for each person. Mine may be minor to someone else, but it was huge for me.
Well, that kind of goes into what you also do for females. You're very empowering, like to encourage someone to get into their sexuality, but you are also empowering when it comes to like body positivity and just being positive around sex in general. So just even if you like, women are so in their heads, like it's so crazy. Women are so in their heads during sex, like you're thinking about a million things, and that's why it's really hard for a woman to, you know, get in the mood, because you're like thinking, did I leave the oven on? Did I cook dinner? Does he like this? What does my rolls look like? What does my ass look like? Like, am I going to come? Is he going to come? Like, so there's so many things going through a woman's mind that I don't even think men, because men can just turn it off. And it's just like.
I say boxes. I say men have boxes in their brain. When they're mowing, what are they thinking about? They're mowing. Is this my tire on the line? They're thinking about mowing and mowing only. But when we're mowing, what are we thinking about? Ooh, what am I going to cook for supper? Did I make the kids lunch? Did they have lunch at school today? You know, we're constantly thinking. And unfortunately, that's just how we are. We are our own worst critic. Women are their own worst critic. And we are so down on ourselves all the time. And like you said, we could be intimate and we could be in the mood. And then, bam, it's like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I look okay. Is he liking this?
Yeah.
What does it look like right now? That's just what, like, it's one to the side and one up, you know. Like, is he interested? Am I looking hot today? What about those lingerie? Maybe I should have worn different lingerie. We're so mean to ourselves. And that is something that I work with a lot of women on trying to get past, because this is supposed to be fun.
Right.
It's supposed enjoyable. We are supposed to be living our best life, whether you're single as a Pringle or you're in a relationship, married, you're dating, whatever it may be. And I would love for every woman to be able to step into that with themselves. And mine didn't just happen overnight. It took me about 2.5 to 3 years to step into body positivity and loving myself at whatever size, whatever I may look like, my age, my gray hair. I call it, at summertime, I called it my tinsel. Now it's my streak of glitter, you know, like.
So what is your best advice, or when you go to these parties, like not only are you just selling sex toys and like talking to women like the 88-year-old who has never orgasm, how are you helping them step into their own like power? Like what is your goal at a party?
So honestly, my goal at a party is not to sell. I go into every single party and I tell myself, I don't need their money.
Okay.
My goal is I want them to have a great relationship with themselves first, and then a great relationship. If they are in a relationship with somebody else, I want them to be able to enhance it, compliment it. I don't want them to ever feel like they're coming to me because I just want to sell them something.
Right. And you never felt salesy when we were there. No. Like you were a good time. Like you were talking about sex like you knew it. Like you're like, me and my husband we used this toy the other night. Like you were just very open. And I was like, that is badass that she is just up here not trying to sell shit. But she's like, nah, me and my husband do this too. So yeah.
Everybody does, right? I mean, listen, the clitoris has 8,000 to 10,000 nerve endings. If that wasn't, you know, it's meant for pleasure, right?
Right.
Wasn't meant to be enjoyed, it wouldn't have all those nerve endings.
Now, have you seen that meme where it says something about like the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings and you ain't even getting on one, or like you're on every damn one, or something crazy? And I was just like, that's pretty.
If you're gonna get on my nerves, I need you to jump on one. I told my husband that one day, and he was like, "Oh shit."
I love it. So let's talk about a little bit of toys. So. One question I have, if you're selling the toys, do you have to literally, like, obviously not the toys you're selling, but do you have to try them out first so that you can actually talk about it and say, this is actually what it does?
So I prefer to try my stuff out before I sell it, because if I don't think it's soft enough, or if I don't think it's comfortable to use, I want to know every in and out. So I do put a lot of money into taking demos out, because if it's not something that I think is going to be good for my clients, I won't sell it. I'm not about to sell something that maybe or is not powerful enough, you know, anything like that. So yes, we like our product tester days.
Does the husband ever get on one of your lives? Because I know you do these Facebook lives. Does he ever get on?
He does. He gets on a lot. We used to do it a lot, and then we just got busy with a lot of different things. And so we're working on bringing him back into the lives, and we've had like a little bit of a break. So now I'm able to get him my clients love it when he gets on and his face gets red and they're like, oh gosh, he's blushing again. And they're like, we love it when Rusty gets on.
Well, yeah, because I mean, I just love the fact, like, so even in friend groups, so for instance, Sex in the City. You have Samantha, right? She's promiscuous. She doesn't care. Her friends accept her for who she is. And then I just started watching this new show, Harlem. It's basically like the new Sex in the City. And it's awesome. Like, there's this one promiscuous girl and she's just like, I don't give a fuck. I'm getting off today. And she goes out. And it's just so empowering to have friends like that who can talk about it. But I know some of my friends who don't ever bring up sex or talk about sex. But honestly, like, some of my friends were like over there. I feel like we talk about sex more than men talk about sex.
So you'd honestly be surprised. Well, okay, I believe, yes, in a sense we do. However, we talk about it more in like a passionate way.
Right.
And the men are like, yeah, I hit that last night. But we're like, oh my gosh, I really like it with this. And, I got off, but I think it's more in a classier way that we talk about it. Right. That both genders do have different feelings, or because the guys are not gonna go talk to their guy friends and be like, yeah, I kissed her neck and I rubbed her back and then she let me stick it in.
Right. Well, and then also, like, we talk about dick pics, right? So no one cares about a dick pic, so stop sending them, men. Stop.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Stop it. That, and I have so many single clients and they're like, it's literally a turn off. Like, and I think guys just think that we want to see it all the time, but most women want to get to know someone. They want to see your person. We're not visual creatures like men are. Men are visual creatures. So you like to see our bodies. Plus, women's body is way more attractive, in my opinion, than a man's. Not saying that a man's body is not attractive. I'm just saying, like, when you're talking about curves, breasts, ass, like, men don't have that most of the time. So, Right. Women, like, they are more on the quality side of in a relationship, or what they want out of a relationship, not what the package is.
Like in the conversations, it's just like, oh, well, he was very romantic. He took me to dinner. He paid for it. He let me stay the night. It's like, that's what women are talking about.
Right. And I'm telling you, like, this girl I know, she had a whole dick pic collection. Like, and I'm telling you,
hey,
like,
some people, I guess, like it, I mean, you like what you like.
Some women want those pictures. I'm not saying they don't, but in the dating world, most women don't just want that because that's a big turn off.
So going back to the sex toys, because I actually, on that Harlem show, it was hilarious. This girl, she was having her first lesbian experience and she went to the sex store and she bought like all these dildos, like even one that was like massive, like 12 feet long. So let's talk about that for a second. Like, first of all, the vaginal vault is only so far.
Yeah.
So this whole I want to be 10, 12 inches thing needs to just go somewhere. Anyways.
So typically with a partner, majority of women don't look at length. They look at girth.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you, it's so deep, right?
Right.
I mean, I had a customer one time she was dating this guy for a long time, but they couldn't get past sex because he was so big.
Mm-hmm.
And work with her on vaginal trainers and things like that and different lubes because it would make her bleed all the time. And so men just think that, oh, it's huge, she wants me. But really they're like, oh shit. Like, oh God, I don't think I can do that big.
I think men want bigger anatomy to show men, because women are like, get away from me with that. Yeah. Like, we're like, no, bye.
No. Bye, thanks. That's nice, but I'd rather have more like a Coke can.
So let's go back to lube. So I listened to a podcast, and I think it's, what's her name? I should have done my research first, but it's like a sex therapist podcast, and she talks about lube. She wants lube on everyone's bedside. How do you feel about lube?
So I actually love it. I really promote it. Because especially those women who have had hysterectomies. I'm a hysterectomy woman. I had my hysterectomy a year and a half ago. The majority of women don't self-lubricate after hysterectomy. Some of them do. And for me, I'm like half and half. Sometimes I'll self-lubricate and sometimes I won't. But a lot of time, this goes all the way back to it takes us 30 minutes to get aroused.
Right.
So I'm not saying that this is what happens, but in my personal opinion, just from people that I've worked with, that a lot of their partners, mostly men, think that we're just wet all the time. Right. And that's not the case. And so most of the time, whenever we start these adventures with our partners and they just want to stick it right in, our vagina is dry. It's not, I mean, we do self-lubricate, but if you're just like dripping wet, I'm going to need you to go see an OBGYN. Okay. But we need that because if we stick it in dry, whether it's a toy, whether it's your partner, whether it's fingers, that actually causes tears within the vaginal walls, which is why a lot of women have yeast infections, UTIs, bacterial vaginosis, things like that. And we need that help. It's nothing bad. There's nothing wrong with you. It's completely okay. It's, like, don't down yourself because you may have to use lube, but it can make it more pleasurable for you, and it can even make it more pleasurable for your partner. So don't think that is something, if you have to use lube, oh my gosh, your body's broken. Because it's not.
So this therapist talks about how, like, the same thing you said, like it takes women longer to become aroused. So if it's taking her longer, then the lube is there. Also, not to mention, depending on the month where your hormone cycle is, not even just hysterectomy people, but like let's say it's at the end of the month where your period's about to start, you may not have as much lubrication as you are like when you're ovulating, because that's when you're supposed to have a baby and you're supposed to have more lubrication. So there's things like that. Not to mention, if you have a partner that lasts a really long time, then the lubrication may not be there throughout the whole thing.
Right. So that's where water-based would come in. Like if your partner is one of those that can run marathons, definitely more like a water-based, because it can re-wet and it works with your own natural lubricant. Also, silicone would be really good for that as well. But don't be ashamed to use lubricants. There's no shame in the sex game.
So when I was younger, like obviously having sex, like this is embarrassing to even say, but you know what? This is a podcast. We're going to talk about it. So like when I was younger, and I was on birth control, like I could not self-lubricate because of the birth control. And like I thought something was wrong with me, and I finally went to the doctor and she was like, no, it's actually birth control. That's what it does. And I was like, well, what the hell? What's the point of this? Obviously not to have a baby. But the guy I was with at the time definitely shamed me for that, because then he was like, well, what's wrong with you? Like, what's wrong? So that stayed with me. So that stayed with me for forever, because then I like literally get paranoid if I'm dating someone and it happens. I'm like, well, is this going to happen again? Is this going to happen again? Or how are they going to feel? Like, oh my God. And then I'm in my head, and then it does happen because I'm in my head about it.
Right. So, and that, what I was saying earlier, like we all seem to go through these different levels of sexual trauma where people say things to us that they don't realize is actually it's going to hurt our self-esteem moving forward. And then we're like, am I good enough?
Right.
Should I be this way? And it's honestly warded several people off from ever wanting to have a personal connection with somebody. And that just hurts my heart. It really does, because one little thing said can just, it'll stay with you forever.
And I think that's what's sad, though, is because you would think that we would be able to talk about that when we get in new relationships, but that's a hard thing to talk about. It's like, hey, by the way, in this relationship 10 years ago, this was said to me and I didn't really appreciate it. So could you not?
Like, I mean, mine had to get it out of me. He was like, why are you like this? Why won't you make noises? Like I said before, because, I'm like, oh my gosh, is he going to judge me too?
Mm-hmm.
And that sticks with us. And a lot of us are too scared to talk about it.
And going back to like faking orgasms, like, yeah. So you're with someone for, let's say, 6 months and you faked every single orgasm. When do you tell them, like, hey, by the way, faking orgasm?
I'm a very blunt person. Like, I'm going to tell you how it is. In my opinion, you can fake one, but do you really want to have every relationship where you're never going to be sexually satisfied? Because then that leads to miscommunication. That leads to, like, it's kind of like, when we don't eat and we get hangry, you're going to get angry with some sex. So we're going to call it sangry or something. Like,
sangry.
Like, like, that is something that releases a lot of emotions whenever we do have an orgasm. And so I don't believe that's something that women need to keep quiet in a relationship, whether it's a fresh relationship or you've been married for 20 years. Like, you need to have those conversations, because miscommunication is a huge thing, and communication in a relationship is huge. But also, a lot of people don't take into play, you can have all the communication you want, but if you and your partner are not comprehending the communication, you're going nowhere. So
right. And timing is right. It's not the best time when you're in a fight or breaking up to say, well, you never made me orgasm anyways.
That's the right time. No. And we shouldn't talk about those things.
Right.
It can be uncomfortable, but it's things that need to be said.
But it goes back, like, if everyone read this book, it literally goes back to women. So, okay, everyone's probably watched Bridgerton, and how the young girl didn't even know anything about sex, like, period, end of story. And then when he was telling her he couldn't have a baby or whatever, but yet he was ejaculating, like, outside of her. Like, and then she finally, like, talked to someone, and they were like, no, he can have a baby. He's just pulling out of you. Like, and she literally had no idea. And she's like 20 something years old, because that was, like, I think based in the 1920s maybe. But it goes back to just educating, and that women were, so it went from that, like, women weren't allowed to talk about sex. Women had to be virgins when they were married, or you couldn't be married, or you were considered a harlot, or whatever the word was. And then going, like, forward, like, if women talked about sex, or like, I enjoy sex, or, you know, whatever, then they were labeled a whore or whatever. So there is a lot of shame, I think, when it comes to women talking about sex and not feeling empowered to talk about it, because there are some men that think, like, this is for me, not for you.
Right. And this is one thing that irks me, going to the whole, if you do it, you know, the woman's a whore. This gets brought up all the time with my customers. And when I hear about how, oh, I'm just going to use fake names, John over here can go have sex with 25 women, and he's a king.
Mm-hmm.
He is. But Mary goes and has sex with 25 men, and she's a whore.
Right.
So this is where that stigma and the negativity on women about sex needs to stop and needs to change. Because why can John go fulfill his sexual fantasies, but Mary can't?
Agreed. Like, it's that double standard where it's like, okay, well, women enjoy sex just as much as men.
Yep.
Just as much as men. But I think it's getting better.
It's getting better, but especially in this little Bible Belt that we're in.
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, if you're listening to my podcast, I do have some people in Germany. So it's like,
oh, okay.
Yes.
Hi, Germany.
So we're like Alabama. And you're in Tennessee. So you're in Tennessee, I'm in Alabama. It's definitely the Bible Belt South. So we're behind on everything.
Yeah, just a smidget. If you can't hear the accent, I do have German relatives, so maybe
cool.
German. That'd be cool.
So, if we're going back to toys, what's your recommendation for someone, maybe female, who's never used a toy and they want to do it solo and explore before they try with their partner? What kind of toy would you suggest for them?
I always suggest a bullet type toy, because if they're already intimate, so they're getting vaginal stimulation, I always suggest a clitoral toy like a bullet. So that way they can explore with their clitoris. They can rub around the labia, the vulva, all the parts. They can do their nipples. They can use it for oral play with their partner, or their partner can in turn use it with them on oral play. I always say that's a really good beginner toy, because if they've not really experienced too much with vaginal sizes, they could get something that may be too big for them, that may be kind of painful. So I always try to encourage a clitoral toy first.
And obviously you just said, so you can use that in the bedroom. So if someone's using a clitoral toy in the bedroom, what position would you say for the man, so it's not awkward? Like, if they're first time using a toy and, like, the man's now like, okay, I'm not in the mood anymore.
So this is actually my theory on it. So this goes back to the very beginning of the conversation. A lot of men think that our toys are going to replace them. So my first thing when someone tells me, oh my gosh, how do I use this? How do I introduce this to my partner? I literally tell them you're going to use it on them first. You're going to give them a mouth hug, and you're going to, for mouth hug, that is a blowjob, but I don't like that. We don't blow anything. We hug it. Okay. So you're going to take that vibrating clitoral toy that's small and you can cup it in your hands, use it around the testicles, up and down the body, however they want to use it, and use it on them first, because that way they see that it's not just about us pleasuring ourselves, that you can use it together.
Okay.
So then with positions, honestly, every body is different. Every single body shape, size is different. So if I were going to suggest a position, it would definitely be something maybe like on the edge of the bed. If your bed is at the right height, where you're laying on your back, they have your legs and, maybe your ankles, feet are up in the air. That way they can still enter easily and slowly, but they can also use that little toy on top for the clitoris and be able to see the action. And if they want to go up to the nipples and play with that, they can. But that way, it's basically they have their own empty canvas, your partner does, and they have access to your entire body. And it was more enjoyable. There can be a lot of foreplay with that position.
Okay, so now if we're talking about like the experienced couple, they've been together for a while, they want to spice some things up. Do you have a toy in particular, positions, things that you typically sell that you're like, this is going to spice you up, it's going to reintroduce you to each other? What would you recommend?
So I always recommend a toy that can be inserted along with the partner.
Oh, okay.
We have some that kind of fold, like they can either be straight or they can fold into like a U shape. And so you can have clitoral stimulation where it's folded, and then it also inserts into the vagina. And then you would have to have a lubricant for your partner to be able to go in and out, but your partner would go underneath the toy and insert into the vagina. So you would have that vibration along the penis, and you would also have that vibration on the clitoris and the inside of the vagina. So that way you have this, it's like a euphoric experience, I guess.
I was going to say, with the man might even be like, oh, okay, what is this vibration?
Right, because most men don't get the vibration.
Right.
It's either a hand job, a mouth, or a vagina. And so that's definitely something new that you can introduce into your relationship. It's something that can be used inside the vagina along with the penis, so that way they can get the vibration. You're basically on like the same level, if that makes sense.
That's interesting. That is interesting. So we're definitely going to have to link all this in the show notes for people. But so also, when we were doing my friend's bachelorette party, just because you're a hoot, you're hilarious, I think there was like this contraption, like maybe handcuffs and feet cuffs or something. And like you were like talking and like all of a sudden you just pulled it and you were like, and this is how it works.
So that was a sexy spreader or a position pal. So it would around the ankles. So like if you were on the edge of the bed, like I just said, it would hold the lady's legs up. And that way you don't have to hold them up. You can do free range. It can pull them closer to her head. It literally can pull you any way that you want. You can use it doggy style. You can use it to pull, during doggy style. You can tie them to a chair. You can whatever you want to, but it'll definitely spice it up.
Interesting. So also, do you as a company sell like lingerie, or yes, do you like recommend certain lingerie lines?
So I do have a lot of lingerie. I just partnered with a company called Dream Girl, and I love their quality. They have sizes up to 4X. I know that with a lot of my ladies, they love baby dolls. And I'm just going to tell you, ladies, every body is a lingerie body. Women really need to start stepping into their power and owning a piece of lingerie, whether it's a baby doll, maybe it's a 2-piece, lace. And a lot of them are like, well, I need my boobs perky. Honey, it doesn't always have to be perky.
You know what's funny though? Like going back to that, like what we said earlier, like women being in their heads about sex, and yes, men, I've talked to a lot of men. Like I have a lot of guy friends, and I've talked to them like about my insecurities with my body, and people are like, you have insecurities with your body? I'm like, yeah, everyone does. And women, especially like when we're in our heads during, sex, and we're like, oh, I look this way. Guys are like, we don't even know.
They don't
no.
Notice. They're like, what are you talking about?
Like, I'm thinking one thing only. I'm about to get some. It's about to be some action up in here. So what are you talking about?
And this is another thing too with lingerie that a lot of females say it, but a lot of my male customers are like, why would I buy that when it's going to end up on the floor? And I'm like, you're missing the whole point, because when you step into that sexy piece of lingerie, You're number one, going to feel amazing about yourself. It's going to make you confident. If you get the right piece, you will see how it will change your mood. And then it might even just change your mindset on sex and what you look like and how you feel about yourself, to where you might actually be able to get an orgasm without being like, oh my gosh, how do I look? Are my boobs flopping?
Right.
Is my stomach rolls? Whatever may be going through your head that you're negative self-talking to yourself. That lingerie is so important. And every female needs to realize that. If you don't own a piece of lingerie, girlfriend, get you a piece of lingerie and see how it changes your mind.
I love me some lingerie. Like, I've got so many that I've never worn for anyone just because I loved it. Like, it's for me more so than for you, because it does make me feel better about my body, because it covers certain things. There's shadows. It fits a certain way. It hugs certain things, Also, you don't have to take the lingerie off to have sex.
You do not.
And that's another thing. What'd you say?
Like,
it cut out.
I said, especially if you get one with a snap crotch, you don't have to take those off. So if you get one that's like a body suit type fit, is a snap crotch, honey, put that on with a pair of jeans, okay? As long as it doesn't show nipples. Wear a cute little blazer out for your dinner. And then guess what? When you walk into the door, you start, stripping it down in front of them, and they're going to be like, holy crap, you've been wearing lingerie all night, and see how that changes. Everybody's walk in that door because you're going to be getting you some.
Now, do you have any playlist, or do you like music, or what would you give advice for women who don't maybe know how to seduce someone, or they're just trying to get in the mood for themselves? What is your advice when you give women for that?
So me personally, I'm not a fan of music, just because we have that mindset, like that track where if I'm listening to music, I can't concentrate on what's happening. Some women love it. Some women have to have a playlist, and that is great. But if you are wanting to get in the mood, be seductive, if you like nipple play, start there. Rub your nipples, get them excited, because if we get our nipples erect and our partner sees that, that's instantly going to seduce them, because men love erect nipples. Our partners, if you have a female partner, guess what? They're going to love erect nipples, because that shows that we may be turned on, right?
Or you might just be really cold in the room.
You could be cold, but, guess what? If you cold and they're erect, guess what it's going to do? Turn them on.
The cold's working for you.
Right. Like, erect nipples are a big sign of stimulation, arousal, that kind of thing. If you are not a nipple play person, and I have several women they're like, I don't even like my bra touching my nipple. Totally cool, girl. Guess what? Stimulate yourself with the clitoris. Okay. Get the blood flow down from the brain down into the clitoris, get all those nerve endings woke up. And if you are into this, you can self-play in front of your partner if you're comfortable enough. Just walk up and start. Right?
There you go, girl.
Walk in and see you, playing with yourself a little bit. And that is probably the easiest seducing you could ever do. You could walk up to them, kiss their neck. It can be little things, touching them, rubbing them in their favorite spots. Super easy. You don't have to be like, come here, baby. Come kiss. It can be as simple as.
So what other toys, devices would you say are kind of underrated that you think are game changers in the bedroom?
I might get a lot of flack for this because this is not a popular subject. It would be backdoor play. It would be
my God. So I thought you were going to say anal plugs. Is that what you're talking about?
So, okay. I'm talking about any kind of anal stimulation. A lot of people are scared of it, but that's because they're not taught exactly how the back door works. So, and a lot of men too. Let me tell you, if you have a male partner, and you say, I want to try a back door, what are they going to do?
Hell no.
Ram it in. And you can't just ram it in the back door. You just can't do that, because you have external sphincter muscle, but you also have a sphincter muscle right on the inside of the anal opening. Okay. So whenever they put it in there, it's basically like a wall. So when they hit that, that's where that pain is. You have to ease into backdoor play, but it can be super pleasurable for women. I have several customers who are like, oh my gosh, now that you've told me how to do it, I like it better than vaginal.
So I listened to the Skinny Confidentials podcast, and she, I think her brother-in-law has a company called Foreplay, where it's like a lot of lubrication toys, and they had him and a sex therapist, I think, on the podcast, where they were talking about like placing an anal plug into a female while a man penetrates the vagina, because it pulls up, like it pushes up some kind of muscle that actually allows you to have an orgasm with missionary.
Yes, you can. And also, depending on the length of, I would assume, the plug and how everybody's G-spot's positioned differently. Not one person is the same, but a lot of times if you have that backdoor play toy, whether it's vibrating anal beads or it's a plug, and your partner enters in vaginally, a lot of people don't realize that their clitoris is not only external, but it's also internal.
Right.
You can even achieve an internal clitoral orgasm without having external clitoral sensation, okay, or play or vibration, whatever. So whenever you have the backdoor play and the vagina, like you have the penis into the vagina, or whether you have a female relationship, anything that goes up into both, you can actually have like a little orgasm sandwich, is what I like to call it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. You can have anal orgasm mixed with a G-spot, mixed with vaginal, and you can also have a clitoral orgasm. You can literally have this massive sensational orgasm that a lot of people don't reach because they're too scared to
The
play
more
with.
you know. The more you know. No, I will say this confident. I'm not a backdoor person. Never have been, never tried it, never going to do it. Sorry. It just sounds too painful. And so like when a guy has asked me before about that, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But first I'm going to stick a vibrator in your back door. And then if you like that, then yeah, sure. I'll give it a chance. And every single time, no, we're good. We're good. we're good on that. X-nay that conversation.
A lot of men and a lot of female are too scared of it, and they think everything's going to hurt. Sex should never hurt, even if it's backdoor play.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's learning the proper way to insert and how to do the backdoor to have the proper pleasurable anal sex.
So if someone would like to book a party with you, are you currently doing parties? How can they book that with you? What will you bring to the table?
So I am currently on a party break.
Okay.
Just because I worked parties so hard. I hit it full force for about 4 years straight. I had big goals. And so currently I'm trying to enjoy my house that I worked hard for.
Right.
Trying to enjoy my kids a little bit more because I was literally working 7 days a week, pretty much nonstop, fulfilling orders, things like that. So I am all game. I still reach out to people. I have my private women's group that anybody here can listen to, come join. I do talking. I do a lot of body positivity in there. They can message me about products. I can hit them up on my website. I eventually will probably get back into doing bachelorettes. It may be like a quarterly deal where I'm not 5 parties a week.
Right.
But it may be something where I offer limited availability in the near future.
Now, are you still selling your toys and things like that where people can reach out and say, hey, or no, not currently, and they could reach out and maybe say, what do you recommend?
Yeah, so I have my website up. They can go grab. I'm working on getting a lot more inventory in, so they can order stuff on my website. It ships the next business day, free shipping, all the fun things. They can still reach out to me and be like, hey, what do you recommend? And you can tell me your relationship or any past traumas, and I can walk you through what would work for you.
Awesome. And we'll definitely link your website in the show notes. So everybody, if you want to check out her website, want to buy a toy discreetly, whatever, check out the website in the show notes. So want 2 more things from you. Yeah. One, I want advice to women. I know we've kind of talked mostly geared towards women. My podcast is geared towards women. An advice that you would give women to kind of come into their own, experience sex in a different way, enjoy themselves, seduce their man. If they're single, it doesn't matter. What is your best advice for them women?
I need you to look in the mirror every day, and you need to have the 2 most powerful words that you can say to yourself is I am. So every morning you need to stare at yourself. A lot of our insecurities come from our self-image. You need to look at yourself and say, I am beautiful. I am sexy. I am powerful. I am amazing. I am loved. Whatever I am, you need to hear. You need to tell it to yourself.
Right.
You don't need strangers to tell you. You need to believe in yourself. So if you want to step into this sex goddess, or you want to step into any kind of role, I always tell my people, and this is how I stepped into it myself. I started with I am every single morning.
I love that. And so if you're talking to men out there, and whether they're single, in a relationship, well, what would you tell them to help their women achieve orgasm, or any advice that you, like if you had one piece of advice that you were going to die on that hill for, what would it be for men?
I would honestly tell men, don't be so harsh.
Right.
I mean, honestly, like, be more understanding. It's more than one piece of advice, but be understanding. Don't always assume that we are trying to replace you with anything. Learn, listen, be more open-minded. There you go.
There you go. Open-minded.
Open-minded.
And what I forgot to ask you earlier, so obviously that was the advice, but how do you feel, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers because there's a lot of debate on this, porn?
Okay, so I believe that there is a healthy amount of porn and there's an unhealthy amount of porn. I did go through a class with a PhD in sex therapy and sex psychology, and took a class and graduated with that. And I totally agree with her. You should not have more than 30 minutes a week.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In porn. That's like your max, because if you think about it, there are some porn is very unrealistic expectations.
Right.
Relationships should be, that I think that a lot of people in their head were like, oh, I don't look like her in, what she's doing, or I can't move like these people, or I can't squirt like her, or we're so in our head. And I think too, not just we have different expectations, but the men also have different expectations, because if they're seeing these women squirting and they're swallowing and letting them squirt in their eyeball, the men also have different expectations. And then sometimes that can honestly carry into a relationship. And I've seen it where it has broke some relationships because they have these expectations of what sex should be from porn. And that's not how it can everyday relationship. So if you are comfortable together watching porn, there is a safe limit, but also you both need to understand and comprehend that this is not
reality.
How sex goes in a relationship in the home.
Well, I think also if people realize that, real sex is not porn sex. Like I think most people know that, but there are people that don't. They think that they should look that way, or, whatever. But if we think logically, well, also Disney movies and all these rom-coms is not reality. You're not gonna just run up a flight of stairs in an airport and find the love of your life. Well, I mean, you might, but I'm just saying, like, it's not happening every day.
Right. Right. So, and I think that's what they need to realize, is it's not reality. Granted, you may have an instance where it might happen just like the porn did, but that's not going to be every time. And yes, it's great to maybe, visualize a fantasy, or maybe get some fresh ideas on positions, or, different oral techniques. I definitely think it can be a learning tool, but I don't think that people need to make it be like that's how their reality has to be to be able to enjoy sex.
Right, because vanilla sex is okay.
Okay, and sometimes the vanilla sex sometimes can be the best sex.
Right, agreed. No, I appreciate you doing this so much. I know it's been a long time coming, and I'm glad we can connect together and do this, because it's obviously a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard topic to listen to. Some people might turn this off in the first 5 minutes, but I think it needs to be said. I love interviewing women who are just empowering in a woman-owned, operated business. You're an entrepreneur. You're doing this. You've been doing it for a while. You also educate yourself when it comes to just sex. Like you just said, you went to a PhD on porn and you graduated with that. So I just think that that's amazing that you do that, and you're not just out here trying to sell toys. And you don't like, people can sell anything, right? Like if you don't know how it works, works and you don't know how it operates and you don't know what you're doing, like you test the products, you sell the products, you go to these classes and you get certifications. And I think that's amazing.
Yes. I am not going to try to sell something if I don't know about it, because it's not gonna get anybody coming back to me, right? And I want to build relationships. I want to build friendships. I don't want to build my bank account.
Right.
And if it builds my bank account while I'm helping people, that's a perk. But if I can genuinely help somebody and help their relationship, whether it's through body positivity, their self-image, whether I save a marriage, I can't tell you how many marriages. I've even had some marriages that did not save, but guess what? They didn't go out hating each other. They were able to be friends, and it ended on a really good note. So I call those wins.
Right.
You know, if I don't sell you something, awesome. If I sell you something, awesome. But if I save you your peace of mind, your body image, how you feel about yourself or your relationship, amazeballs.
So pimp yourself out socially and tell everyone where they can find you. And again, I'll link everything in the show notes for everyone. So again, guys, go click in the show notes and you'll be able to find her, get her toys, ask for advice. You're always so quick to respond. And I think that's amazing. And you are so open. So guys, if you need any advice, she is literally a wealth of knowledge when it comes to sex toys, positions, lingerie, your body image, anything, all things, I promise. So pimp yourself out. Tell everyone where they can find you.
So you can find me on TikTok at More Romance, MOORE Romance, all one word, or www.moreromance.com. So MOOREROMANCE.com. Or you can follow me on Facebook. It's just Megan Moorehead. Get it? Moorehead. You'll never forget me now.
I love it. And I literally at the beginning of this now just said, oh, your last name's Moorehead, because that's what I thought it was, because I'm in your Facebook group.
For my Facebook group. And then my Facebook group is More Romance Self-Love Lounge, but we will put all the links down below for you guys.
All right. Thank you guys. And we are out. Bye.